Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this is going to be update number 11 to the Starkiller base MOC build series. I'm super excited to show you guys this week what got done. As you can tell by the title, the first order transporter is finally built in actual bricks. I am so happy with it, and I'm super stoked to be able to show you guys that. But before we dive too much into that, let's actually talk about this week's live stream donors. So special thanks to those guys who donated this week on the live stream. This week we have the Training Brick, as always, Dandan6151, BrickKid, Chris Brink Productions, Xavier Sorrent, Nhaf OW, Chester Crab, and Mark Parks. So thank you guys so much for contributing via the live streams this week. It means so much to me for you guys to do that. And of course, guys, if you're not tuning into the live stream, I certainly urge you to do so. It is a great way for you to not only see the mock early, but to also just hang around, talk Star Wars with the boyos. What more could you want than that? But yeah, so the first order transporter is finally built in real bricks. You can actually kind of see it like right there in the background. I also did some prototyping for some sections of the stage and built some first order figs as well, so I'll be able to show that off to you guys. And let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Why even stall? Alright guys, let's take a look at Starkiller base. As you can see, most of the platform remains untouched. It's basically the same way as you remember it before. One of the small things I did this week was just building more figures. There's actually quite a few more that should be here, but right now they're chilling in that first order transporter, which we'll take a look at actually a little bit later in the video. But I mentioned earlier, I guess last update actually, how I'm going to be making an effort to get more of my first order figs built because I need a better understanding of how many I'm going to need to buy to just finish out with this platform. So we'll see how that goes. I'm probably going to actually start placing orders from them because I kind of have a general idea of how many of these figures I have left still in box and not on this MOC, and it's not a ton of them. So I really just want to, really soon have all the figures lined up on the platform area. I want to have more TIE fighters built, especially with the transporter finally being built in real bricks. Need to get another one of those built, and I really just want to have a nice holistic scene of everything on this platform as we move into developing the stage area. So one of the things that I worked on the stage area is actually one of these things right here. It doesn't really serve a practical purpose. I'm pretty sure it's completely aesthetic. And if you have no idea what this even is supposed to be, I'll actually pull up a picture of it right now. And it's basically a little design detail thing that's built into the stage. And it's kind of an unconventional shape and with unconventional angles. So it was not the most straightforward thing in the world trying to design something like this, but this is the prototype I've come up with, and really this is all I kind of need, I feel, to go off and build a completed version. It's just a matter of having those parts on hand. So I actually went ahead and ordered the parts to build 4 of these, because basically there's one here, there's one on the opposite side of the stage on the very area, there's one here, and there's also one there. So you guys are wondering why those gaps were there. They're going to be filled in by these bad boys right here. So I feel there's a couple interesting things that I did with this. In particular, I used these like bracket pieces on the very edge to kind of show how like the very edge of this is I guess elevated a little bit past this. Not elevated enough to justify like a plate difference, but half a plate difference with those bracket pieces actually works out pretty well. And the way that this is honestly constructed from the side, you can see there's just a lot of weird angles in there, with the angle coming up here, then there, and then actually coming back towards you. That was kind of tricky to figure out. What I ended up doing was basically taking this entire section right here into like my build room, where I actually kind of conjure up smaller things. This room is really just made for the MOC to sit here and then maybe to do some general straightforward building. But when I'm actually like designing stuff, I like to go into my dedicated Lego room. So that's where I took this, and that's where I was able to figure this out. So as of now, there's a lot of kind of random colored pieces in there, and it's not even anywhere close to finished by any means. But with this design right here, I was able to work out all the angles I needed to work out, and I know that I can move forward with my final design, which is more or less in my head, and I'll kind of play around with some different techniques as I get those new parts in. But this is, I think, is a really solid start. I'm actually quite happy with the way this came out, and I think it'll actually add quite a bit to the just the general look of the stage once I can actually get 4 of those filling in the slots over there. So super excited about that. And really, that's all I got for things that were built on the platform. Most of this build was for the first order transporter. So let's go ahead and check out a little time lapse. One thing I will say is, unfortunately, the time lapse is not complete, like, at all. I ended up just running out of like computer space and like camera space to hold the time lapse, because it was just, it took me so long to get the transporter built that I really just didn't have enough space on my computer / camera memory card to hold all the pictures I was taking for the time lapse. So I think I get maybe like 60% done with it, and then you guys will just listen to me talk about the actual model. So let's go ahead and cue up the time lapse, and then we'll talk about the finished first order transporter. Whoa. All right, guys, this is you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Just kidding. This is my first order transporter next to the Lego set first order transporter, and mine is considerably bigger. Mine is actually around like 2,200 pieces. I think the Lego set was maybe just under 1,000 pieces, and I just love the way that thing looks. So let's actually go ahead and move the Lego one out of the way, take a closer look at my custom model. So I'd say I probably spent maybe like a good week of actual, maybe like a week or 2 weeks of actual like solid hard design work that wasn't me just kind of looking at pictures, but me actually like trying to figure out how to build this thing. Because I mean, I think a lot of people kind of expected this to go quickly, and I would say I kind of did as well, just given the fact that the ship is very boxy. It's a pretty simple shape, kind of like if you just take it at face value. But I mean, as with any of these MOCs, as you look closer and closer at the fine details, you'll find that it's not actually straightforward of a build at all. And there's some considerable, like, kind of difficult things you're going to have to figure out if you want to build a nicely detailed model of it. And fortunately, I feel I accomplished that. So just to take a look at some of the things that I personally really like about this, this section in here is probably one of my favorite sections of the entire build. These are just like this like fin sections that kind of stick out from the side. And then these in here were super difficult to figure out. It took me just so much time on LDD of kind of working around this to get these wedge plates to fit just like in there and have it covered up just enough to where they could kind of come out at an angle but still not really expose too much of the inside. That's really the biggest challenge with a ship like this and really any custom ship. Just trying to be as diligent and efficient at filling gaps as possible. You don't want to have any just huge like obvious gaps. You want to have your nice angles and your nice details, but also have everything fit as seamlessly together as possible. So that's always the biggest challenge, and I feel like I accomplished that really well. One of the other things I'm particularly impressed with on this build are the little like landing gear sections. I think the landing gears themselves actually just look really nice. I actually kind of modified this front one a little bit because at first it was literally just a 1x1 cylinder piece kind of connecting the bottom to the top without any like bars or anything going through it. The back one was fine because there is a bar that was able to fit basically going all the way from the bottom to the top. So it's pretty sturdy. It's not going to just snap off easily. That initially was not the case for this front one, but I reconfigured it, and there's basically one of those pneumatic T-pieces in there, and that actually made it so much more stable. Now both of the landing gears are pretty solid, and I can pick this thing up and like slide it around on a table without the landing gears falling off, which is actually very important to me because, I mean, I don't know, having a ship with weak landing gear is actually quite annoying. Kind of makes it annoying to like mess around with and move around. So yeah, once I got that figured out, I was actually quite happy. One of the other things I really like about this model, and I feel just sets this MOC apart from other people who have done first order transporter MOCs, is this angled section on the front. You can see it's not like the Lego set where the walls just kind of come straight forward and then there's a simulated angle with these wedge plates up top. There is an actual angle here, and it goes from like this section all the way to the front. It's a subtle angle, and you can kind of tell that from the side with this very small crack right there. But it is, I feel, important to capture in a build like this, especially with a ship that is mostly boxy. Those little kind of curves and angles, you want to capture as much of that as possible, just to not make it look too plain, I'd say. And the fact that I was able to do that, once again, relatively seamlessly without leaving too many gaps was a huge accomplishment for me, and I am super stoked with the way this looks. If we come around front, we get a better look at that door, and there's like fins on the door as well. I'm actually going to show you the inside in a sec, but before I do that, I want to take you guys around to the back of this boy. This thing is like actually quite heavy. But yeah, so this is the back. You have those, I feel, signature like angled engines on the back, which was super important to get down, and I actually really like the way they look on this model. And then of course you have these like fins on the back as well. I'm not entirely sure what their purpose is, but we see that pop up on tons of Star Wars vehicles, I think most notably the Snowspeeder. So I'm happy I was able to incorporate that into this build in a way, a design I'm actually quite proud of. So I like that a lot. We got the fins that cover the engines on the sides, so I think those actually look really nice as well. And I actually just really like this gear detail in here. If you guys look at the actual model of the First Order Transporter, the design that's kind of right here looks almost exactly like this gear, so I was super happy to be able to incorporate that. This is like the cockpit area, so I've made it to where you can actually just lift that up and you can slip minifigure in there. You could actually probably take that off, and you have access to the inside to include a minifig. So that's what that's for. Got space for a pilot in there, so we are good to go. One of the other things, and I think this is definitely one of my favorite parts of this vehicle, is this little gunner section right here. I think the gun design just looks like incredible. I'm so happy with the way that came out, kind of using those roller skate pieces and then just various small pieces to give a lot of detail to that gun, because I feel like it's a pretty prominent part of the ship, I think. And you got your stormtrooper manning the turret, and you can actually remove this. So right now I have his hands clipped in, so I can actually just take the entire thing off. But I just want to show you guys the hatch does close, and then if I had 2 free hands, I would take his hands off the turret. But you get the idea. You know, you can have the turret sitting there, and then pop the hatch open, and then sit your minifig up there to have him actually manning the turret, which I think is pretty freaking sweet. So I'm super happy with the way that came out. One of the other cool things about this, I think, is this flex tubing in here. It's kind of going around him, and that was actually a really important detail for me to capture. Whenever you can include flex tubing on a vehicle, guys, I definitely urge you to do so, because that flex tubing goes such a long way in adding just a good amount of detail to your build, especially since people don't use it too often on vehicle MOCs. So I'm actually really happy with the way that that came out. So in order to take a look on the inside first, I'll actually kind of put this back. We'll take a look from the front, and you guys will see the door lowering, that iconic first order transporter door, and it's pretty cool in there. I think it'd be really nice to have lights in there. That's something I'm still considering. I think I ultimately will end up putting lights in it. I'm not too sure if I'll do that for this MOC, because there's really no reason to. But this is what the inside looks like with the door down from the front. There's these white lines in here, which are actually supposed to be lights in themselves, kind of reminiscent of those Death Star lights, maybe even like the ones that are in those elevators right there. Also, there's these like actuators that kind of are supposed to be like letting the door down. And one of the most kind of concerning things for me with like doing this was making sure that I could just build these into this and just have it kind of be seamless, right? Where you could just, have them there, lift the door up and they kind of hide into the body of the ship. And then when you pull them down, they're just there, you don't have to fiddle around with them or like position them in any way. So I actually was super excited that I could get that to work. And yeah, let's actually look at the inside of this build. Hold on. Move that section and remove this section, and wow, we got ourselves a lot of first order boyos chilling inside of the transporter. And this site just makes me so happy to have, a nice minifig scale transporter with almost enough troops on the inside. So I actually left enough foot spaces to, I believe, put 18 troops in here. I've mentioned it before, the actual model should hold 20. It's not something that's going to keep me up all night. But with the flame troopers in the back, they took up more space than I anticipated. So I think this is actually only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 troops in here. So these guys take up 2 of the spaces that would be otherwise taken up just by normal stormtroopers. So once again, like I said, not going to keep me up at night. But it was worth noting that if you're considering building one of these for yourself, whenever I release the LDD files for this, it can actually stand 18 stormtroopers inside of this main section. But one of the really cool things I feel about this is that the walls on the inside are actually a different color from the walls on the outside, which is kind of something you take for granted, especially on a MOC like this. Like, it'd be pretty easy for me to just kind of, add a few details on the inside, but not really go all in on it. But I mean, the inside, I feel, just has such its own identity compared to the outside, because I was able to make the walls and the floor and everything just kind of, a different design scheme and a different color compared to the outside. So I think that actually looks really, really nice. I love this thing so much. I'm so happy with the way this build turned out. I went ahead and removed some troops towards the back so you guys could get a better look at the interior, specifically that door section right there. And I just really love the way this thing came together, especially with those angled sections towards the bottom. It just all looks really nice to me. And man, I just love this thing so freaking much. The cool thing about this build is that, I can use it here in Starkiller, and that's wonderful. But there's so many other MOCs that kind of are opened up for me now that I have this nicely detailed one. Like, I could do that opening sequence from The Force Awakens on Jakku. I could have these guys in like a Takodana MOC as well. And this will even be useful, for down the line whenever I decide to do a MOC from the Resistance TV show. So many things are opened up by having this nicely detailed transporter. I am in love with this thing. I thought I loved the ship in canon, but I think I might just that my love may have increased after building this mock and really familiarizing myself with the design of this vehicle. So that's really going to finish up the update this week, guys. Definitely let me know what you think about this transporter. I am quite proud of it, and I hope you guys have enjoyed taking a look at it as well. So let's go ahead and go to the ending segment of the video. And that's going to finish up the video this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed checking out what I've done so far on Starkiller Base. I'm so happy to finally have one of my transporters in my hands. You know, it's one thing to see it come into fruition on LDD, which is very nice in itself because, I mean, at that point, the model is theoretically done, right? But it's a whole other thing to actually build it and roll bricks, to have it in your hands and to understand that the way you have designed it actually works for a real physical model. So I'm super happy to have it finally built. I'm definitely gonna plan to be selling the LDD files to it, as I've done with most of my other custom models, very soon. So make sure you guys also stay tuned for that, and definitely let me know in the comment section what you think about the first order transporter. Moving forward, I'm gonna have to build a second one, so it's nice to kind of know that it'll work, and the next time around I'll definitely be able to understand the files a little bit more and hopefully be able to get it built a bit quicker, because it took me, it seems like, forever to get this thing done, like over the course of multiple days, which is, I don't know, for a 2,200 piece build, you wouldn't really expect something like that. So moving forward on the mock, I'm just going to be working more on the stage area. Like I said, got the prototyping done for those little slots that'll be in the stage. Hopefully the parts for those come in this week. In fact, they absolutely should come in this week. So I'll be able to make a considerable amount of progress there. And then also with just the top of the stage as well. Let's go ahead and get that done, get that worked out, so we can actually start the parts behind the stage that actually go up, i.e. the big red banners behind them, i.e. the giant anti-aircraft turrets that are also going to be sitting on the stage as well. So I think this is just a very exciting time to be tuning into this mock, and I have so many awesome things to show you guys moving forward. So thanks for all your support thus far, guys. Let's keep it going. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.